Hello, welcome to this educational video. My name is Mariana Ruelas Garcia, and today we will be discussing a little bit about the history of translation. We are going to be discussing about the history up to the 80s. Okay. So first of all, we have the translation in the ancient Rome. The first translations were actually transferring activities from Greek into Roman. Okay, and we have two main translation theorists. They are believed to be the first two, and they go by the name of Saint Jerome and Saint Augustine. Back in time, there has been a discussion whether it is possible to transfer meaning in a word-for-word translation. It is important to mention that back in time, literal translation was like the only option to translate different documents. So sometimes theorists have thought that maybe it's not possible to transfer accurate meaning if we translate word for word, right? But as time went by, we have discovered other ways to translate, not just literal translation. Now, there are modern approaches to translation, and we have some theorists, some translators that we need to discuss about. For example, in the American scene, we have Ezra Pound, okay, and he was a poet. Actually, he was a poet, and he translated Chinese poetry into English, and he believed that literal translation was not the best option. Actually, he insisted on the necessity to translate rhythm, diction, and movement, okay, in the case of poetry. Of course, he made excellent translations about Chinese poetry because he was himself a poet, and that's why he believed that word-for-word translation was not the ideal option for this type of translations. And then we have another important theorist, which is Quine. Okay, he wrote Word and Object in 1960. He believed there was no such thing as equivalence. Why? Because he thought that there will always be a problem of referentiality and indeterminacy. So he didn't believe that there were like very accurate translations. There was no such thing as equivalent for him. And nowadays there's still the question about equivalence in translations. Another important translator that most people know about is Eugene Nida, because he was the author of the Bible translation. And this person, Nida, believed that there is meaning underlying the original text. And he also believed that it doesn't matter if you made some adjustment into the text as long as you keep the meaning of the original text. So for Nida, the form of the message is completely unimportant. We need to keep the message of the original text, that's for sure. And actually, he was a translator that believed that they should be invisible, because the important thing when translating is to keep the message of the original text. And And also, when talking about modern approaches to translation, we need to talk a little bit about sacred text. There was this belief that we need to keep fidelity to the sacred text, like the Bible, for example, and that in this type of text we need to go with the literal translation. But this is questionable, right? Because if we move to Nida's thoughts, so in that case, we don't need to do word by word translations. We just need to keep the original message of the sacred text. And finally, we have the topic translatability. And we have, for example, Bloomfield, who believed that only scientific texts could be translated. And later on, in 1971, Wandruska claimed that that we cannot translate completely the original messages into the new language. However, on the other hand, we have some theories like Garcia Yebra in 1984, and who believe that translating is a difficult task, but it is not impossible to cover the original message of the text. And actually, the act of translating could be seen as an art. And this, we know that art is difficult to analyze, but the product, the finished translation, can be analyzed, and according to some research, theories can be presented, and such studies clearly merit the name of science. That's why some people believe that translation is a science too. Thank you for your time.